Good evening. I'd like to welcome you to our Municipal Council meeting for Tuesday, January 21st, 2020. I'd like to call this meeting to order at this time and ask if there's any declarations of interest. Seeing none, we will move into our public meeting. I'd like to thank everyone for coming tonight and taking the time to provide, have a fair bit of reading material here, and I have read it all, as all other members of council have as well. It certainly helps us in our deliberations, and I thank you for taking the time to do so. If you would like to speak tonight about the application on the telecommunications tower located at 14 Fairbairn Gate, please fill out a yellow sheet. We have some there we could just hand if you'd like to speak. With the municipal clerk, this will become our speakers list for the evening. We're here to listen to your comments, suggestions, and concerns. With that being said, each speaker will be provided 5 minutes. If you are in the middle of a sentence, we certainly won't cut you off, but I will give you a sign to notify you that the time is wrapping up. Most importantly, we are a character community. We deal with courtesy and respect, as seen by the banners around our council chambers here. We treat people with fairness, and we ask that you do the same with the members of the audience and refrain from cheering or applauding, as we want to welcome all opinions, comments, and concerns. We look forward to hearing from all of you. Once we have heard from everyone who wishes to speak, council will move forward with the staff report on the agenda. So with that, do we have a list, Mr. Clerk, of who might want to speak to?
Through you, Madam Mayor, we do. We'll start with the applicant, Brian Smith.
Good evening. Good to have you with us tonight.
Yes, thank you for having me. So I'll just jump right into it. First, I want to discuss the reasoning behind the tower, the various internet solutions that I explored, and why a new tower is required to meet the CRTC's definition of a basic level of broadband service. So originally, I spoke with every internet provider in the area. Rogers, Telus, Whirlwave completely refused to try and provide service to the home. Xplornet told me they have several customers in our community, but due to the extreme difficulty of getting a signal, they stopped taking new customers in our area. So I want to be clear here, because there's been a lot of talk about why didn't we just go with Xplornet. Xplornet, the company that provides internet to almost every opponent of mine on Fairbairn Gate, no longer offers wireless internet service in our area, period. It's gone. So the lucky few on Fairbairn Gate that installed towers and subscribed to the service prior to spring 2019 will be allowed to remain, but they're not signing up any new customers and have no plans to offer this service again. The only service still available through Xplornet is satellite service, which doesn't meet any of the criteria set forth by the CRTC for basic broadband service. So I also spoke with Bell. They would require a tower to be installed to receive service at a price of $65 per 5 gigabytes of transfer. According to the CRTC, the average household in 2015 transferred almost 200 gigabytes per month. So that would be a cost of $2,600 a month for internet service with Bell. Wisp Online was the only provider that offered an acceptable level of service, but they were also required a tower of at least 26 meters to get line of sight out of the subdivision. So with the topology of our community, I don't know if anybody's been there to visit it, but topology of our community is in a valley and we're surrounded by tall trees. It makes it impossible to get internet service without the use of a tower. Most towers in the neighborhood have been erected or enlarged in the last 2 years, now push 60 to 70 feet tall, and are still not able to get a strong enough signal to provide a basic level of service as defined by the CRTC. It should be noted that 7 of my immediate neighbors on Fairbairn Gate have towers that are between 50 and 70 feet, that is 15 to 21 meters tall. This is not just my opinion. The public meeting on January 13th, one of my neighbors acknowledged the tower they erected with Xplornet is 70 feet tall, and it's roughly the same size as the other towers around it. Worst of all, they said even though the service that they received was good enough for them, it still didn't even achieve the basic level of broadband service. So just going back over how we got here, a brief timeline of events and discussions with my neighbors. So during some of my initial visits in April of 2019, before I purchased my home, I walked the neighborhood and spoke with several people about the internet situation and to understand how others are handling it. Without exception, all the people I spoke with acknowledged it to be a huge problem. We're all frustrated by the lack of solutions. My wife and I still decided to put an offer in on the home in April and took possession of the property in May of 2019. Immediately after moving in, I came into the town offices here. I asked numerous questions about the requirements for replacing my roof because my roof was completely gone. I asked about erecting a tower and street parking our cars while our driveway was occupied by the roofing crew. I was told the town didn't require anything from me for the tower or the roof. All I needed to do was email bylaw regarding the parking. So that's what I did. Tower was constructed in July 2nd was when construction finished. And immediately following construction of the tower, the town building inspector came and reviewed the installation with me. I explained to him I already visited the town offices and told there was no permit or other requirements from me, and he confirmed that there wasn't any that he was aware of, but he would follow up with the town staff and get back to me if there were any problems. I didn't hear back from him until late November, when he stopped by again to inspect the tower at another resident's request, and once more assured me that the town was satisfied the tower wasn't a danger. It should be noted that the town staff were immediately provided with the technical drawings for both the tower and the foundation when they were requested. So now we go up to August. Jamie from the East Gwillimbury Coalition for Better Internet visited my home. It's about a month to a month and a half after the tower was erected, inquiring about the tower, how much it cost, what level of service I was receiving, and after a lengthy discussion, he asked if I'd be willing to host a third-party provider to host a relay service on the tower so the rest of the community could have the same benefits I had without having to construct a tower of their own. Jamie convinced me that the provider was reputable and this would be a huge benefit to the surrounding community. I agreed, and he went around the neighborhood speaking directly with the residents, providing information leaflets, and engaging the neighborhood directly through a Facebook community group. Through Jamie and the East Gwillimbury Coalition for Better Internet, FiberSpeed presented me with a proposal to share my tower in September, which involved a set of minimally intrusive sector radios, approximately 24 meters high in the tower, and to add a small equipment box at the base. Using only this equipment, they would be able to provide 50 megabit internet to most homes on Fairbairn Gate and John Rye Trail, in addition to several other homes on Holborn and Warden that are within the vicinity. I agreed to allow them to use my tower. I should make it clear here again, I've said this several times, I do not receive any financial consideration for the number of people on my tower. If it's one person or 1,000 people, it makes absolutely no difference to me whatsoever. At the end of November, FiberSpeed completed the installation and testing of their equipment on the tower and began providing broadband internet service to the community. I'm told that over the course of just a few weeks, 16 households are now receiving service, with more on a wait list trying to schedule their installations. 6 weeks, we had 16 people. Staggering. That's 50% of our community is already signed up to this tower. That's how much of a difference this has made. Industry Canada reached out to me sometime at the end of November or early December and put me in touch with the town's associate solicitor, Neil Proudfoot. Ever since then, I've been working with the town, following every request and answering every question in a prompt manner. I've made myself available for repeated conference calls, meetings, sometimes with very little notice, and not one person has ever complained they couldn't contact me or that I took too long to respond. So let's examine the responses to the public consultation meeting, including the concerns from the opposing residents and the overwhelming support from most of the participants. I was pleased by the large turnout for the public consultation meeting on January 13th. Thank you again to everybody that came, including members of council, members of the town staff, and members of the public. Your time was appreciated. I believe this meeting truly put an end to much of the misinformation and confusion in our community. After listening to the opponents, it appears that most of the resistance to my towers from the households closest to it, yet many of these residents have towers of their own that range from 15 meters to 21 meters in height. Most seem concerned about how this tower is, quote, incompatible with the character and scale of the area. But it is my contention that my tower is only 20 feet, 6 meters taller than the existing towers along Fairbairn Gate, and it's placed in a similar location on the side of my home, which is consistent with the other towers in the community. The biggest difference between their tower and the one that's erected on my property is the type of tower used. The neighbors have all opted for the cheaper, traditional tubular TV towers we're all familiar with. They have a 30 centimeter wide base, and it's the same size all the way up. I opted for the much stronger, self-supporting lattice structure, which has a 100 centimeter base and tapers down to 20 centimeters at the top. Neither style of tower is CSA certified. Both are sold with similar disclaimers, quote, tower load limits are based on survival and cannot be stamped by a licensed engineer. Trilon has provided me with the load calculations, which were part of this document on page 5 of what I sent for my tower installation. It shows the safety factor calculations for the tower using our specific antenna loads and clearly demonstrates the towers within the manufacturer's safety limits. It is my understanding that towers under 30 meters high and with a foundation of less than 5 square meters do not require any building permits, nor are you required to do soil density tests or provide stamped engineer's drawings. I've been told by several tower construction companies, the manufacturer of my own tower, Trilon, along with their largest competitor, Wade, that this is completely normal for this type of tower. The exact same tower was erected in the center of a residential neighborhood in Sanford, Ontario last year after the entire application was submitted through CRINS, which is a third-party independent company. They have nothing to do with government. Municipalities pay them to do this for them so that you guys don't spend all this time on this. And again, no permit, soils tests, or stamped engineer's drawing were provided or required because they're simply not available. To my knowledge, no one has climb guards installed on any of the towers in my area, including the households with children. I understand there's some concern with that, so if there is a concern with that and the town requires that towers put these on, I'll add them tomorrow. I can totally get behind that. There was a comment made at the meeting that the town's at this meeting that the town planning staff had identified my property's greenbelt and/or heritage. I immediately questioned your town planner, Rena, and Neil Proudfoot, the associate solicitor, at the conclusion of the meeting and was assured this is incorrect. Rena had a copy of the zoning map with her and was able to verify the tower is not built on or near any greenbelt, heritage, or otherwise protected lands. All the towers around us, including ours, are made from galvanized steel. I have not witnessed any issues of glare from my tower, and my wife and I are consistently outside in our backyard during good weather. I've reached out to WISP, FiberSpeed, and Trilon, the manufacturer of my tower, and was told this issue has never come up before. I've even gone out of my way to walk around my property during sunny days trying to find an angle to witness this and have been unable. Perhaps there's some snow or ice buildup on the tower. It was reflecting sun. If there is an issue here, it will be short-lived, and I expect that it will completely subside as the tower becomes duller with age. In terms of equipment on the tower, it has a single dish, about this big, at the top, that connects to my initial internet provider, which is Wisp Online. And they're also the people that built my tower. Directly below that, there's a second dish, about this big. That's with fiber speed. And then about 4 meters down the tower, there are 3 antennas, which are called sector relays, which are about this big. With those, the sector relays are what are relaying the signal into the neighborhood. We'll be removing the WISP dish shortly, as it's no longer needed. I'm not going to keep 2 internet providers on there, since I don't need that. I'm not sure why one of the opponents has stated additional equipment needs to be added, but this is simply not true. There is no need for any additional antennas or equipment. Everything to service the entire community is already installed. So while most of the evening was spent answering the concerns of the opponents, it rapidly became clear the majority in attendance were supportive of the tower. We heard from many residents about the difficulty of obtaining any level of service. Some people were telling me they're getting 1 megabit service, and that's all they were able to get to their home. And that's incredible. To put that into retrospect, the majority of the people in the GTA have access to 1.5 gigabit internet service at $100 per month. They got 1. All we're asking is 50 megabit, just so that we can participate in today's digital economy. 50 megabit is 3% of the speed that's available to the average person in the GTA. That's crazy. Some told stories of paying hundreds of dollars per month for absolutely unlivable service, and others who were just about to give up and sell their homes entirely due to the lack of internet. I learned there are 15 homes in our neighborhood with children, most of which required broadband internet to complete mandatory online modules and submit their daily homework. This tower has been life-changing for many of them. Throughout this entire ordeal, I've had several town residents visit my home, all very supportive of the tower and the need for better internet. I've received dozens of emails in support. Dozens of emails in support. I've even received a few thank you cards from the children in my neighborhood that have just dropped into my mailbox. How wonderful is that?
Could you start to wrap up, please?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
My wife and I have only been residents of this town for 6 months, and yet in that short time, we've solved the internet problem plaguing the homes and farms surrounding us, all using our own time, our own money, and our own land. Everything we did was in good faith and with the best of intentions. We did our due diligence speaking with the town staff and numerous neighbors before, during, and after the construction of the tower was completed. No one raised any concerns with us until late November, early December, even though all parties were aware of the tower's size and location. Removing this tower now would rip an essential service away from more than half the homes in our community, waste thousands of dollars, and accomplish nothing but placate a handful of residents who all agree internet service is a problem, but I've offered no viable solutions. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The next speaker, and these are not in any particular order, is Catherine Sprigg.
Good evening. Welcome.
Thank you. My name is Catherine, and I too am a resident of East Gwillimbury. I spoke briefly at the meeting last week regarding the tower, and tonight I wanted to properly address the internet concerns that the residents are having to live with, thus leading us to try and solve the problem on our own, which leads to the conflicts that are happening here. I'd like to outline it through the lenses of cost, education, and security. Currently, our only option is ExploreNet Satellite. Our limited plan is $209 a month, for 200 gigabytes, which runs out monthly. We run 2 hubs at $190 each. Those also run out. And we have increased the data on the phones to $128 per phone monthly. None of this allows things like Netflix, YouTube, Crave, gaming, any of the things that you would assume with this cost would come with it. This is simply based on the speed that we receive. The phrase up to 25 megabytes per second is kind of a joke, because after last week's meeting, we actually sat and did some speed tests, and we got 0.84 megabytes per second download, 8.58 megabytes, and 0.71 megabytes. And to give you a comparison, as was just brought up, Rogers' fastest is 150. We have 3 sons who are currently in school. 1 is in high school and 2 in post-secondary. Our high school student has the mandatory e-learning, and we get phone calls at the beginning of every semester from teachers who think that Joshua's pulling the wool over their eyes, that he doesn't have the internet to be able to access his e-learning courses. Unfortunately, this semester it was English, grade 11 English. And I actually have to tell the teachers he's not lying. We cannot pull up Google Drive nor access any of his documents in our home. This happens with our post-secondary school children as well. So what we do is we get into our car and we find Wi-Fi, usually outside of banks or locations that have strong Wi-Fi signals, and sit in the car for the kids to be able to access what they need to do. We have government mandated programs, but we don't have the internet to follow through with the expectations. This is a far cry from a level playing field, and this is what teachers, when my children go down to Bill Crothers, they say openly to me that they're in shock, that they're giving work to my sons, but we can't access it. Rural areas are known to be vulnerable to break-ins. Our neighbor recently was broken into, and firearms were stolen from his home. So as a result, we began to look into security systems, and once again, the internet seems to be a massive issue. We learned for cameras to link to our phones or get alerts, you need 5 megabytes per second download as a minimum. And then we looked into the Ring doorbell, and you need 2 megabytes per second download. And so both of these options are unavailable to us. So we too were in the position of putting in a tower. We approached the town in August, and we were told that there was no restrictions on building the tower. It's going to take time for our family to be able to raise the funds, but it's something that we need to do. I'm at a loss of what else we can expect to do. Our costs are absolutely astronomical right now as a family. Our son's education is coming at fault, and our safety is important to us, since especially the local break-in that just happened. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Through you, Madam Mayor, next speaker is Jamie Murphy.
Welcome, Jamie. Good to have you with us.
Thank you. I just want to state, first of all, that I'm here as a resident and resident only tonight. Just here to support Mr. Smith and his tower. The new internet that's being provided from Brian's tower is a game changer for us. I will spare the details as are in the notes that you've all read, but essentially, basically, through towers, cellular booster antennas, and the internet service we've been paying for the last 2 years, we have spent approximately $16,000 on internet alone. I have searched the end of the earth for better internet since about 2010. I've also started a coalition of residents, which is basically a Facebook page at this point, to try and gather support, push council, and band together to exchange information to try and make the internet situation better, especially for rural customers. Although through this process, I've learned that there's many customers or residents in towns that also suffer from poor internet. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much.
Through you, Madam Mayor, next speaker is Christina Rolston.
Good evening, Christine. Good to have you with us tonight.
Thank you. Oh, I guess I should be on the first page here. I'm a little nervous. I always wanted to live on a farm, and in 1987, I was lucky enough to pursue my dream, and I purchased a 10-acre hobby horse farm on Holborn Road. I loved rural life. The country folk at that time were so supportive. I was a single girl, just 23 years old, looking after my horses, dogs, and cats while still traveling to the city to work, and everyone helped each other. If you didn't mow your lawn, your neighbor often came over and did it. The hay wagon showed up unexpectedly. Always people showed up to help. You can imagine my shock when I received the notice from East Gwillimbury that they had approved a 52-home estate subdivision behind me. The neighborhood was against it, and we fought to stop it, but the town didn't listen, and so it went ahead on a somewhat smaller scale, and my life changed forever. The grading of the subdivision behind me makes most of the water flow into the back of my property and has made 2 of my paddocks unusable. In order to manage the water, I've had to install additional fencing to keep my horses off this wet area and away from the water that's potentially contaminated with chemical fertilizers from this subdivision and their green manicured lawns, pool backwash. I now rarely use this acreage. My well no longer produced enough safe water for my horses, and I was forced to drill a 300-foot deep well in order to continue living on the farm. Trees were cut down without my permission at the back of the property by the new homeowners, even though I made it clear that I didn't want these trees removed. Sadly, I went to work one day and they were all gone. I contacted the town regarding the issue, and they told me that I had to prove the trees were there before, so I was out of luck. At a cost, I installed an additional fence at the back of my property. I've had issues with people dumping their yard waste, grass clippings, Christmas trees over the fences into my horse paddocks. I again went to the town. I was told it was a civil issue, and I was out of luck again, so I installed more fencing at the back of my property to stop that. I want to say that, needless to say, many items in people's yards that they purchase at the nurseries are fatally poisonous to horses. For an example, any tree from the yew family will kill a horse instantly if they consume it. We also have a coyote problem. The wildlife that used to live in this subdivision now moves down to the farms that are left. They threaten our livestock, and there's nothing we can do except clean up what's left after the carnage. The cost to me personally has been substantial, emotionally and financially, but I have found a way to adapt. As time passes, things do change, and one can only learn how to fit in or be internally frustrated why the things didn't stay the way you hoped they would have, and I have made it work. The tower complainers call Brian's Tower an eyesore. For me, the entire subdivision is an eyesore. Gone are the trees and the fields. Gone are the trilliums of every color that bloomed in the spring. Gone is the wildlife, and gone is the peace and quiet. Gone is the nighttime darkness. However, of late, my sentiment has changed. Rural customers in East Gwillimbury have little or no internet coverage. We have tried everything to find a provider. Xplornet in the past promised to provide us with a single if we attach an antenna to our indoor arena. It didn't work. So they then suggested we move the antenna to the south and attach it to our garage. Still no luck. We spent $5,000 doing everything Xplornet suggested, and nothing worked. We send emails, we do some Google search, maybe a bit of Facebook. We never stream TV. We do not know what Crave or Netflix is. Our internet costs range between $500 and $1,000 a month. Brian Smith has generously provided us with a solution at no personal gain. His willingness to share his internet signal from the tower he erected at his expense for his personal use has given us good quality internet at a modest cost. Brian is the type of neighbor I want. He's willing to help those around him with no personal gain. Brian's tower was built more robust than the other towers in the community, but that's what makes it safe. I've attached pictures of a number of towers on the homes in Fairbairn Gate. Most of them exceed the 15-meter allowable height. Some are in disrepair. Some are not even used, so I'm not sure why they're there since towers are a hazard. In fact, there's one that's held together with electrical tape. Not one of these towers has climb guards to prevent children climbing them. Even the homes that have children do not have climb guards, yet they feel it's necessary that Brian make his tower child safe. We need internet, and it's not just about entertainment. Everything is done online. Enrolling in an East Gwillimbury program is done online. Banking is done online, and especially since some of our local banks have closed their doors.
Thank you.
Madam Mayor, next speaker is Ed Starr.
Good evening, Ed.
Good evening. Nice meeting you. Nice seeing you. Madam Mayor, members of council, the concerned residents of Fairburn Gate submitted a detailed report which is noted in your list of submissions. However, we believe council is already well aware of our concerns, so we thought we would shorten our remarks, I'm sure you'll be happy about that, and get to the heart of the matter. First, we agree that everyone should have the type of internet service they need, no question about it. The basic question is, does council want to achieve this by permitting towers of this scale in residential neighborhoods? Is this council's vision of the town? The protocol approved by council specifically says no. It says such towers are to be located, and I quote, in areas that maximize the distance from residential areas. If council does not end up supporting its own protocol, are you prepared to deal with the consequences of setting such a precedent, which will see similar situations arising on a regular basis in residential neighborhoods across the town? This will divide neighborhoods and basically leave the planning and development of the town at the whim of individuals, rather than having the municipality provide the necessary order and guidance. If I'm fiber speed, should this tower be permitted to stay, then I'm immediately finding a dozen willing homeowners and signing them up in residential areas all across East Gwillimbury and erecting towers in those areas. We've reviewed the protocols of numerous municipalities in every corner of Ontario, and they all take the same position as East Gwillimbury. Towers of this scale are not to be located in residential neighborhoods. Is East Gwillimbury prepared to stand alone in the entire province of Ontario, possibly in the entire country of Canada, as the only municipality that finds such locations acceptable? That said, we believe the purpose of this meeting should not be for council to hear a steady stream of speakers on both sides of the issue, criticize or complain. It should be to find a solution to the problem. Fortunately, we believe there is a win-win solution. Council should take a leadership position by confirming that it stands behind its own stated protocol and agreeing that this location is not acceptable. The fact that an individual homeowner took matters in his own hands and made the decision himself to locate the town next to his home does not make that an acceptable location. What council should do is set up a site search committee to find an acceptable location. The committee should be comprised of a cross-section of stakeholders, perhaps fiber speed, perhaps a senior member of town staff, our 2 councillors, and a couple of local concerned residents. There are undoubtedly plenty of locations outside of this residential neighborhood that would work as well or better than the current location without bringing the same negative impacts. In fact, some people who attended the public meeting last week and live in a more rural setting told us they were prepared to be a willing host. We've heard a person here tonight who said they're trying to save up money for a tower. Well, maybe that could be a possible location. The executive director of CRINS, the country's foremost expert on the location of these towers, points out that it is not uncommon for multiple proposed locations to be rejected until an acceptable location is found. Indeed, we only have to look to our neighbors in Uxbridge for a tower of a similar, in Uxbridge to learn that that town rejected several locations proposed by FiberSpeed for a tower of a similar nature in Zephyr until an acceptable location was found that is an area well away from any homes. And by the way, the town of Uxbridge also confirmed to us that the Sanford Tower mentioned by FiberSpeed in its submission is located on a property designated for commercial use, not residential. Once an acceptable location is found, the town should play a leadership role by purchasing the tower from Mr. Smith, compensate him for his investment, and relocate it to the selected location and have it installed and supervised by a qualified professional to ensure its integrity and safety. The town should also join CRINS so that future applications are evaluated in a thorough and professional manner by an organization with the required expertise and resources. We urge Council to accept our recommended solution to bring a positive conclusion to a matter that has been going on for 7 months and, and to bring this divided community back together. Thank you.
Madam Mayor, next speaker is Jeanette Robinson.
Good evening, Jeanette.
Hi, how are you? Sorry, this is my first time here and doing this. The internet is very important. I work from home, and I am at the corner of Mount Albert and Warden Avenue. I've never seen this tower. I just seen an article on Facebook about it. Kudos to him for doing it, because I know from working from home how important the internet is. I pay $750 a month just to have Rogers in my home, and that's off a hub, and I don't get a lot of internet. So if he can get and help other people in his community, he needs to keep it. It needs to stay there and help whoever it can, because if I was able to do it, I would do it, and I can't. I live 0.05 kilometers away from the main hub for Rogers and for Bell, and they said all they tell me is you have to talk to your mayor so your mayor can do something for your area to get internet. And they just finished putting fiber all down Mount Albert Side Road, yet everyone else in the area can't even get normal internet. My whole family works for Rogers, and they tell me how easy it is for them. Like, they keep telling me, we'll do it, but they can't legally do it. And they said, we need your permission to have something done, but you would have to contact Rogers or Bell to do the drilling or whatever down Warren Road to give other people this service. Like, from between Mount Albert Side Road and Herald, we have no internet. But if I was told if I lived south of Herald, I'd be okay. If I lived just north of Mount Albert, I'd be okay. So like the 20 homes in that section, we can't have internet unless you're paying $750 for a hub that I had to pay out for. So hopefully something can be done to help everyone that's in a rural area to get some kind of internet. And ExploreNet, for me working from home, just doesn't cut it. It's not fast enough for the downloads that I need for work. Thank you.
Thank you.
Madam Mayor, next speaker is Tom Horsley.
Good
Good
evening.
evening. I was at the meeting last week, and originally I was there for my primary concern that I felt that that neighborhood was beautiful and basically almost the gem of East Gwillimbury, and that the tower was unsightly, and that if it was me and I was in that situation, I would consider what the neighborhood would want and what if that would be acceptable or not. Upon further consideration, I thought that this, in fact, does affect me and every single rural homeowner, because allowing a tower like this opens up a whole can of worms for potentially a tower showing up in my backyard. I'm in the camp where, you know what, it just visually, if it shows up there and it were start to be constructed, I would immediately request that it be stopped because it is visually unsightly. Having said that, I'll keep that short. From what I understand, that Elon Musk is coming up with a fantastic system, satellite-based, and people can get considerably better than 50 megabyte down speed, up, from what I understand, up to 1 gigabyte, and it's not far off. They're indicating that perhaps by mid-2020 this year, that a lot of people will have access to it. The information is very sparse, but I believe another satellite is being launched very shortly to continue to build the network such that people in rural areas can be served with exceptional exceptional internet download speeds. far beyond 50 megabytes per second. So we're not far off. But having said that, I understand everybody's concern, and I'd only hope that, you know, if everybody can hold off, we're not going to have unsightly towers everywhere. Thank you.
Thank you.
Madam Mayor, next deputant is Osmond Pop from Fiberspeed.
Good evening.
Good evening. So I came here to speak mostly from the technical perspective of the tower, because one of the or some of the concerns were with regards to the structural integrity. We did not build the tower, but I know the tower very well because we built several like that tower through Uxbridge area, and also want to talk about the documents that were required when we built them. In Uxbridge, Cranes actually deals with this. One of the previous speakers praised them. I don't. To me, they are a very difficult company to work with. They delayed all our applications for months for no reasons. They actually don't do anything for us. We do the legwork. They take all the documents and they issue a document. A final document is being presented to council, which states, yes, all the documents are all right. Well, that can be easily be determined by any regular person. There's only like 4 or 5 documents. Now, what I want to say, one of the documents that is required and that's in question is a stamped professional engineer stamp for such a tower. What you see here, it's the tower from Zephyr. It's one of our CSA towers. This is a 10,000 pounds tower. It has a foundation 2.5 meter deep, about 14 feet by 14 feet pad. The next image, if you want to go to, is going to show the foundation. It's a big difference and it's a massive, we're talking about 20 cubic meters of concrete. So this has special calculation due to the weight. You need a soil report. So we did all that in order to actually get the stamp from the engineer. The engineer, Mr. Finnegan, is actually working for Trilon. The same engineer actually told me in a communication, if you want to scroll to the next slide. That's an email that I got from him because I was asking for a 96 feet tower T200, which is identical to Mr. Bryan. At that time, I didn't know Mr. Bryan, but another person that had a similar tower. I wanted to know about the load, about the if we can get a signature, and he wrote me this. Please note that stamp drawings are not available for this tower model, as is designed as survival tower and does not conform to the CSAS 3718. So if you require stamp engineer, you have to look into another tower. So basically, this tower that he has, there's no way it's going to get a stamped. It's not going to be stamped by an engineer. Now. That doesn't mean it's not safe. There is a load calculation. So they do provide a load calculation. There is a calculator that anybody can use. We actually used it, and for the towers we have in Sanford, and we have several other towers like that in Uxbridge, that's what we use. So Cranes actually accepted those load calculations and the letter from the manufacturer, because they did a load calculation. They accepted it as valid and proper for such a tower. So if you want to go to the next slide, this is what Cranes issues. So after, this is actually the approval for Sanford. I wanted to put this one on the Zephyr one because this is actually for a tower identical with his. That's built in Sanford. So as you can see, these towers are actually being approved and deemed safe. And these towers are built, this tower actually in Sanford particularly, it's built in the middle of community. If you want to scroll to the next page, you can see right there, it's a yellow pin. It's at the intersection of Concession 4 with Sanford Road. That particular property it's half residential, half commercial. It's actually classified, it's a split use because the base, like the first floor, it's a store, it's a pizza place, and then above it's a residential place. Behind it, you can see a church. On each side, across the street, there are residential houses. It's in the middle of community. And we have several such towers built in the same location. So it had to be, there was a big discussion about it. And I had meetings with the council and with the residents and explaining why I cannot put it. I was asked to put it where the school is. I was asked, school is a little bit down. I was asked to put in several, and I showed them, I have a software that simulates the link, and I said, I can put it anywhere you want. But you have to accept the idea that not everybody will get signal from it. So then don't come to me and say, I want signal because I won't be able. That was one of the problems that most communities had. They had the antennas on some silos. Part of it will get it, part of it not. I said, this is the location where everybody will get it. The same with Zephyr. From that tower, everybody, every single house, there's not one house in Zephyr that asked me to provide service and I wasn't able to provide. But they had to listen to me because I care about the community and, the whole aspect, but I speak technically, pure technically. I spend hours placing and playing with the software to see what's the best location for the tower. If you want to scroll to the next slide, that's how it looks like. So this is a CAD rendering. This was before, so this is from the Cranes document that because they wanted to see, to present people how it's going to look like once it's built. Now you can see it, if you pass by, you can see it in reality, how it looks like. This was before. So as you can see, there's houses all around and it's in the middle of community and nobody has any problem with it whatsoever. Actually, a lot of people told me, like I had people that live there and they called me. Now, I didn't know that there is this internet is available. I said, you didn't see the tower? It's in the middle of, no, I didn't see it. So it depends. It's very subjective how much it's an eyesore or, eyesores, you can look at the electrical poles as eyesores if you really want to. But similar towers like this one have been built through Uxbridge. And if you want to go to the next slide, this is identical with Mr. Smith Tower. It's a little shorter. It's 80 feet. This is literally right behind somebody's house in Uxbridge on Concession 2. Owner house, fence, neighbor's house. No issue whatsoever. Everybody's happy that they're getting internet. Again, he paid for the tower and he shares it with the community. Nobody else paid one dime to have the tower built. We built it. We built it for the owner. We don't own it. It's a real estate agent. He asked me, I need tower. I depend on the internet. I'm a real estate. I chose to move here. I didn't realize how bad the situation is. Whatever it costs, I'll pay. So he paid for it. He built it. And I said, okay, if you built it and it's here, allow me to, to share it with the neighbors if you're okay. He was nice. He said, no problem. We'll share it. Let the neighbors have it too. So
Could
that's
you
what
start to
happened.
wrap up, please?
So it's basically, I'm done. I don't think there's another slide on it. This is another example, again, on Concession 2, another owner that has, this is a 96. This is identical with Mr. Smith Tower. All these are built in a rural area, like not all of them like this is, I think it's far classified. Okay, that's all I wanted to say about it. Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Those are all the yellow sheets that were requesting to speak. There were a couple of deputants that submitted deputations. I'm not sure if they're in attendance, but maybe if you open up the floor to anybody else that wants to add something.
Thank you. At this time, if there's anyone that hasn't spoken and would like to, if you could come up to the microphone, introduce yourself, your name and your address. And the rules will still be the same, about 5 minutes, but I won't cut you off if you have a few extra thoughts. Good evening.
Good evening. Thank you very much for having me. My name is Andre. I live at 18 Fairbairn Gate. I live right next door to Mr. Smith. Never met him. We've had one conversation. Just going to get straight to the point. This was erected in appreciate his comments, Mr. Cosman, about, other towers are erected in other communities where nobody complained. I've submitted a letter to you, to the committee, and 8 out of 9 of the direct neighbors opposed to it. So it's not that nobody wants it. There's 8 out of 9 directly beside, across from him, that oppose this tower. I'm the closest to it. I'm about 30 feet. It's about 10, 15 feet away from the property line. It's about 35 to 40 feet from my house. It's an eyesore. We purchased the property, me and my wife, to enjoy the environment, enjoy the beauty of the property, enjoy the peace and tranquility. Now I got this big eyesore sitting next to me. So I just want to bring up to the committee that this is not about getting better internet, even though everybody needs better internet. This is about the location of the tower and how much of an eyesore it is to us being immediately attached to it. I understand that there are a lot of people on John Wright Trail, which is a street just north of us, that enjoy having the internet because they can get internet now, but they're not living next to this thing where we are. So it's making a big impact on our lives that are directly living in the neighborhood right next to it, but not across the street. So again, that's all I want to bring up the point, because it seems like everybody seems it's internet, but it's not just about the internet. It's the location of the tower and how much of an eyesore it is to us. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Is there anyone else that would like to come to the microphone? This is your opportunity. I'll ask one more time. Anyone at all? Okay, we will move along. If you get home, you start thinking about it or comments that were made tonight, and you feel that you want to put pen to paper or send us off a note by internet, then please do so. We'll continue to gather information for the next while. So with that, I'd like a mover and a seconder to be it resolved that all written submissions and comments made during the public meeting regarding 14 Fairburn Gate telecommunication tower application be received. Councillor Crone, Councillor Morton, all those in favor?
Question.
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
We also received a package from General Manager Ramuno with information from constituents that I would like added to the public record as well.
Thank you. So that the motion will include what we have heard here tonight, as well as the information that we did receive in writing.
Thank you.
I'll call the vote again. All those in favor? And that's carried. Thank you. Item number 2 on our agenda is report from town staff. Is there anything at this time to report? Go ahead.
To you, Madam Mayor. Nothing further. I think we've tried to capture all the comments we've received to date. And as you mentioned, if people do want to continue to submit comments, please do so, and we'll ensure that those are passed on to council, and we'll summarize those in our in the next future report as directed by council.
Could you tell us, for all of our people in the audience, when you expect to have a report back to us capturing all of the information that we have, and the time for the elected officials to make a decision on this in this?
Certainly to you, Madam Mayor. We're January 21st. At this point, I'm thinking we can strive to have a report ready for the first cycle in March. I think if that's possible, the committee of the whole meeting in March. I believe that is March the.
Mr. Clerk, would you have that date at hand?
I believe it's March 3rd, Madam Mayor, Tuesday, March 3rd. Committee hall starts at 10 a.m.
I would prefer to have an evening meeting. I don't think that it's fair to residents to have a decision of this magnitude made while most people are working, perhaps not all, but I think more people are available in the evening than. So I would ask, I guess, is it possible the latter part of February, or would it be pushed to the latter part of March?
To you, Madam Mayor, I think we can shoot for, if there is a late February evening meeting, I'm just looking at the clerk, we can certainly strive for that. And we will certainly then advise all the residents in attendance and those who have provided comments when that date in advance, when that report is going to proceed to the evening public planning or public meeting.
For your information, Madam Mayor, and the folks in attendance, the February evening meeting is Wednesday, February 19th at 7 p.m. That is the week of following the Family Day long weekend. Yes. So that's why our meeting is on the Wednesday, not Tuesday.
So we would try for that, and I think when you say you'll try, you deliver. So I think we should count on that. I would also ask all members of the public that have sent things in, or people that are not here, if you could share that as well. When what will happen at that point is our staff will provide a report, summarize what has been brought forward to us weeks ago and tonight, and anything that comes up prior to the meeting in February, along with some solutions from staff on how we can move forward with this. So if you would like to make a note of that, or you can always check our website. But it sounds like that's going to be the date, and our 7 members of council here are expecting that will be that date as well. Okay. If you would like to stay, we would love to have you, but we certainly understand if you would like to leave. We'll take a little break, and you can certainly exit. Thank you for coming out tonight. Well, we will proceed along with our agenda for this evening. Mr. Clerk, you have something to add?
Yeah, I think through you, Madam Mayor, I think we just missed the mover and seconder for the motion for the report just be received.
I believe it was Councillor Crone and Councillor Morton.
Sorry, that was for the receipt of the resident input and communications. This is for Mr. Ramuno's report.
Well,
thank you.
Would you like to do that again? Certainly, they would like to do that again. We'll switch them around. Thank you very much. All in favor? And that's carried. We're down to D, presentations, and we have none at this time. E, deputations, none at this time. F is committee recommendations, and is without tonight. We have adoption of our minutes. It seems like a long time ago. It was December the 17th, so it was a little while ago. We have the Committee of the Whole minutes from the meeting held on December 17th and to adopt the council minutes from the meeting held on December 17th, pages 19 to 37, moved by Councillor Persichini, seconded by Councillor Crothers. And you have a question? Go ahead.
I do. It was brought to my attention through CIES that there is a error in the minutes on recommendation 2019-381 on page 84 of the agenda. The resolution included CIES when it shouldn't have. The clerk's department reviewed the tape and agreed that CIES should have been part of this resolution and have agreed to take that out. So I make that motion to correct. Thank you.
As amended. All those in favor? And that's carried. We're at correspondence for consideration. And the first one is from Michael Braithwaite, Chief Executive Officer for Blue Door, inviting the mayor and council to participate in the first Coldest Night of the Year walk. It's a Saturday, February the 22nd, between 4 and 8 o'clock, and it is in support of Blue Door shelters. And as everyone here knows, Blue Door shelters are located in East Gwillimbury. If there's anybody that feels they would like to represent us and go out for the 4 hours. I know in the past, Deputy, I think some of our firefighters have participated in this in the past. Do you know if they might be this year?
No, Madam Mayor, I'm not aware if this is the first annual, but Chief Dawson in the past has participated in From the Cold, I believe.
That's what it was. I'm sorry. Yes, it's a very similar evening, the same thing, and it's to support shelters. So if anybody is interested, please let us know. And our motion concludes with any member of council wishing to participate should inform the executive assistant to the mayor and members of council. And please let us know as well, other people. Unfortunately, I'm not going to be able to go, but would certainly support somebody that does. I have a mover and a seconder, please. Councillor Foster, Councillor Crothers, all those in favor, and that's carried. Item I1, reports, and this is from Development Services. Any comments regarding this? Page 40 and 41.
Madam Mayor, this is again another standard memo to inform council of the bylaw before council, the power law control bylaw for the creation of 4 semi-detached units in the Oxford subdivision of Community Mount Albert.
Thank you. I have a mover and a seconder, please. Councillor Persichini, Councillor Roy D. Clemente, all those in favor, and that's carried. We have no resolutions at this time. We have 2 bylaws. Can they be put together, Mr. Clerk? Thank you. Do I have a mover and a seconder?
Both.
You'll move them both? Okay, thank you. And seconded by Councillor Roy D. Clemente. All those in favor, and that's carried. Do we have any other business at this time? Not seeing any. We will move to confirming bylaw. Be it resolved that bylaw number 2020-009, being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of council meeting held on January 21st, 2020, be taken as read, enacted, and signed by the mayor and municipal clerk. I have a mover and a seconder, Councillor Crothers, Councillor Foster, all those in favor, and that's carried. And an adjournment at 8 p.m. moved by Councillor Roy D. Clemente, seconded by Councillor Crone, all those in favor, and that's carried.